Hey guys, today is the 14th of November 2018, and this is the LPC LGS update. I hope you all had a great week so far in terms of your productivity in investments in the space and understanding how we're moving along in cryptocurrency. Today is not necessarily a good day, but in terms of the market action, but we do have some pretty good news in the day's update. We'll be going over the general market conditions for just BTC, cryptocurrencies in general, then talking about LPC, LGS, and then we'll talk about the BWC cancellation and what we're doing to actually do our product reveal here in Dallas. Then after that, we're going to address some rumors that have been going around in the community, and I think it's important to address them and actually present the facts as they currently exist, and so that you all have a pretty good understanding. And I'll address some of the questions as they come up here. So I just want to make sure everybody can hear me and everything is okay before we take a dive into the market and then just go through the agenda. So let me take a quick look over here to see. Um, Okay, so it looks like so far we don't have any questions so far. I'm gonna take just a quick pause. Can everybody hear me? So I just want to make sure you can hear me okay, because I did get some comments about folks not necessarily being able to hear me properly. So far, so good. Okay, so without any further ado, I'll just take a quick walkthrough, the market before we jump into the news. For the most part, no, it's down. BTC cryptocurrency market's taking a hit, down 2% so far when you look at BTC. But when you look at the overall trends, let's go to the global market and take a quick look. And for me, I like to tune in and hone in at the 1 month level because we can see some general trending over the past month or so. As you can see, we're down to about 200 billion in market cap. So we had a run up, which signified one of the first higher highs in a while. But yet it's the case we went and retested that low in terms of the overall market. Looking at it without BTC involved in the market cap, same general trend for the altcoins as well, at about 94 million and some change. It looks like we're just retracing, or we're bouncing off of that previous support line that we have here. So the market hasn't turned into a bull market. Right now, I would still consider it as in accumulation. We haven't had any evidence of saying that we've broken through some of the previous support levels. But right now, it looks like we're still in accumulation. This is a test of one of the previous lows. So we'll see how the market progresses in the next week or so. We got some pretty good news coming out with back that exchange being able to provide some liquidity for institutional investors and high net worth individuals who wanted to invest on that particular exchange. But yet it's the case moving into the masternode space. Let's go to masternode online. Took a quick look. Everybody's in the red for the most part. Today's a down day, but when you look at LPC, we're at 54 cents nominal price, down 7%. The volume are about 18K, ROI 203, 2,700 over 2,700 master nodes. We had over 2,750 earlier in the week, but we had a drop of almost 40 some odd nodes. And that was due to some issues related to some rumors being spread around in the community, information coming back to me. And I want to address that in today's webinar as well. So we'll touch bases on it, and then we'll drive on from there. But we have a market cap of around 2.2 million with 18K in terms of our daily volume. Going in LGS, overall 268, down almost 10%, with a 2.1 million market cap and 76K in volume. Volume is getting pretty low, guys, and that's happening really all across the market. In terms of the trading action, we don't have anyone who's jumping into the space. but more so not a lot of action either up or down. We're still trending downward, but the evidence looking at it across the past month or so suggests that we're moving out of that bear market into an accumulation phase. I still stick to that. Until evidence suggests otherwise. So right now we have an ROI of around 618% with 504 nodes. So we finally broken over 500 nodes, master nodes on the LGS coin, with a master node worth of 2,682. And just understand at a microeconomic level, if you looked at the charts as it relates to the payouts to the master nodes for master nodes and the validation nodes or confirmation nodes, or the staking wallets, it's the case that oversupply is coming into the market on LGS, because of the increase in the payment of the rewards. That's going to taper off. It's similar to the price action that we saw with LPC as well. Initially there was a run up and there was an oversupply, and as a result the price was beginning to make an adjustment, and then after a while after a certain amount of blocks we pull back, and now the rewards are beginning to have decreased for LPC. Which is introducing the scarcity into the market, and as a result you did see us go from around 49 cents 50 to around 60 65 cents up to 67 cents and some change over the past month or so if you look at the price action. But it's the case Logis coin is going through that as well, and couple that with the macroeconomic factors at the overall industry, the cryptocurrency industry level, where the overall market is has been trending downward and now is moving more bearish accumulation phase, more so than anything else. But that's all we have when we're talking about the price action. And once again, I don't necessarily like to focus on the price action, but everyone likes to look at it. You'll kill a lot of time if you do, looking at it every single day. Hold on, excuse me. Okay, that's all I have for the just the overall market in LPC and LGS in terms of its overall let me see. Yeah, dude, I got all these. Yeah, I see a note from Adam. Damon really needs to install an ad blocker, Brave browser. Hint, hint. And believe it or not, I have Brave browser, Adam. I'll use that on the next webinar because it looks like I'm getting more ads than usual. So, but with that said, just overall general market is and this is my opinion based upon like the trends we've been looking at over the past month or so. We're moving out of bearish into accumulation, the accumulation phase. So at any point in time that could change, but I'll update you all from week to week as we progress along. So with that said, I'll move into the next topic that's on the agenda, and want to try to run through it pretty fast. That took like 10 minutes. BWC Cancellation, the Blockchain World Conference that was going to be in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I know some people booked their tickets, some people booked a hotel. I booked my hotel, I booked my flight to go, and subsequently they canceled or postponed. But we'll see what happens with the BWC conference. Most of you folks who booked your flights, bought your tickets, and have your hotel rooms, basically, I went ahead and canceled my hotel room. I'll use the flight for another trip. Who knows what may happen over the next couple months or so. And at the same time, for those of you who actually paid for funds for your tickets, stay on them. Constantly stay in contact, see how you get your money refunded for your conferences, because there are some conferences that are shady. I wouldn't necessarily put BWC in the shady group just yet. We attended their first conference that was in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and that's where we did one of our first presentations and sponsored that conference. So I don't necessarily put them in the shady category, but you got to stay on them in terms of being able to get you your funds back. Otherwise, they'll forget about you, and next thing you know, you're 2 years have passed, and they still have your money. They're exchanges, not exchanges, but conferences that we've applied to, we've sponsored, and next thing you know, they canceled, and it's taken almost 2 months to get our funds back. One in particular, the Blockchain World Summit in the San Francisco Blockchain Summit. Took them almost 2 months to give us our funds back. But it was a constant haggle for them. But I don't think BWC should have that particular issue. But stay on them for the most part. So with that cancellation, no, it kind of hurt and put a damper in the community just a tad bit, because I was excited being able to go to Florida and do the reveal of our ATM machines at that conference, because we'd have a lot of folks outside of the community being able to see the progress that we've made in 6 months. 6 months going from concept, idea, launching Genesis block in really June, May, last part of May, beginning of June, launching out, assembling the team, building the team, making progress, listing on exchanges, building out web wallets, building out mobile wallets. Now it's at the point where we're revealing our ATMs in 6 months. We're in less than 6 months, ATMs, point of sale devices, 6 months. And I think that's great by any measure. But I did want to share that with the larger cryptocurrency community. But it's the case as a result. We're going to do the product reveal in Dallas. We're looking maybe the first week, if not first week. We're having to lock down the exact dates. I'm just looking at 2 days. That will, and more than likely will be on a weekend, where individuals, if you're looking to travel to Dallas, you'll be able to come to the office, see the team, be able to touch, feel, massage, and actually even exchange some currency for some fiat for currency on the ATM machine. I think that's going to be great. I'll send out the details once we lock those dates in, but there are a few things we have to coordinate in terms of what conference rooms that we can get within the building, within Hall Office Park, or we may even get a hotel, depending on some of the things. We're going to have to look at it. Right now, we have some folks who have already expressed a concern of, not a concern, but expressed their interest of being able to come to Dallas to see the ATM machines, and we're going to be taking pre-orders in the next couple weeks or so, as soon as we get the website up to be able to process those orders for the machines. I'm going to take a quick pause to see if there are any questions, and if there aren't any questions, we'll go ahead and move into the next subject here. Nope. No questions so far. Volume's good. Hey folks, hey Colin, Ahmed, Alex, King Cyrus, Dave Wilson. Looks like the regular crews in here, but now we're going to and no other questions. And yeah, Adam, I will use Brave browser moving forward, so you guys aren't getting advertisements left and right. Exit. So let's move on to the next issue. And this one, it'll take a little bit of time, but I think it's important that everybody knows at the end of the day where we are, what's our legal standing, what's our position on being able to legally deploy ATM machines here in the state of Texas, outside of the state of Texas, in the state of Florida, which we have designated as our really our base camp. It's where we're going to launch operations, build a strong base, and then move into other states, move into other countries, and actually become a very strong market player in the ATM space along with our partners. So with that said, when you look at the states around, say, the U.S., the second largest state economy is Texas. That's under California. And if it were a country, if Texas were its own country, it would actually be the 10th largest economy behind Brazil at 1.77 trillion. So Texas is like its own country. You talk to some folks here and they'll say, hey, what state are you from? Say, I'm from the great country of Texas. That's sometimes folks will say that at times just as a joke, but at the end of the day, some folks are serious. Some folks are serious, but at the end of the day, it's a state. But it's one of the largest economies in all of the world. Next to, if it were a country by itself, it would be the 10th largest, according to this article here, if the states were their own countries. So it's next to Brazil. So with that said, it makes sense that we are in compliance with Texas law, it makes sense that we're in compliance with Florida law and actual federal law as it relates to us being able to deploy ATM machines and comply with getting the appropriate licenses that we would need to operate in this space if we do. So that brings me to a point. Earlier this week, there was information going around, some rumors about, hey, this is LPC is a scam. It's a scam project. Let me tell you why it's a scam project. Notes from the rumors were that it was the case that we could not necessarily operate ATMs because it would cost $3.5 million to get a license. At the same time, we would need $3.5 million to operate a license, to have a license in order to operate ATMs throughout the country and the world. So that's one of the main points, one of the main rumors that came to me from a variety of different sources. And I want to be able to address that particular rumor because I think that's really the crux of the issue, as some people were coming to me and say, well, they say it's a scam because you guys haven't paid your $3.5 million for your license to do conduct business, because you are in essence a money service business. So the issue is, one, are we a money service business? Two, are we required to pay $3.5 million to deploy our ATMs across the country and the world? And at the same time, how does it relate to us being able to do exchange of a sovereign currency for a virtual currency? So in order to address that particular issue, I'm going to talk about several things. One, what's needed for a money service business license in the state of Texas, and subsequently complying with laws related to money. And that's an important term that we'll be talking about today. What is money? What does the government consider as money? What are the laws governing money at the federal level and at the state level as well? And then what are some of the provisions or guidance that we have coming from the federal government and the states as it relates to money and as it relates to cryptocurrencies in particular? So as I'm focusing here on the state of Texas, but then Texas, in addition to Florida, one of the most crypto-friendly states in the United States, and if not the world, when you begin to talk about other countries being able to accept cryptocurrencies. When you talk about Japan, they've considered Bitcoin as a currency within their particular country, but that's one of the first countries to be able to do that. So let's jump into this process of actually going through and getting a license for a money service business. And once again, this is from the Texas government website. These are general requirements for money transmission and currency exchange. If we have an ATM, one could make the argument that we are a money transmission or currency exchange business when one is putting in fiat currency and making a purchase of cryptocurrency. One can make that argument. But we'll present the evidence as we walk through, and then you can make the decision at the end of the day, but I'll make my decision, and it's crystal clear in terms of what the evidence says. So for money transmission, so when you begin to think about services like MoneyGram or Western Union, say it's a $10,000 fee to transfer fiat currency from one place to another place. So if I wanted to send money, US dollars, from Texas to Florida, in order to be able to serve, just to put in the application, it would cost $10,000 to actually be able to transmit money from one state to the next. License required for each location? No. You need a surety bond, a $300,000 minimum, and up to $2 million. And that's a lot of money. At the same time, you need to have a deposit or a letter of credit. Applicant's commitment to increase security, yes. You got to have at least a net worth of $500,000, either of the entity itself or the individual that's making that's backing the entity doing this transmission. And you have to have financial statements audited by a CPA with certifications. But it's unaudited for individuals. So if you're individuals with $500,000 net worth and you're going to pay $10,000 for the license, at that point, it doesn't mean that you're going to get approved. It just means that your application will be evaluated for $10,000. As an individual, you could do that if you're willing to have that surety bond of $300,000 up to $2 million, have a net worth of at least $500,000. And then there's background information and releases, say going through a federal, not a state background investigation, going through checking your record, making sure you don't have any questionable affiliation or questionable background. That's just for the money transmission. So $10,000 for the license, up to $2 million for the bond. You got to have the letter of credit, $500,000 net worth, a CPA audit the books, and then a background investigation. For just exchanging currency, so for instance, if you walked into one of the malls here in the state of Texas and you wanted to exchange your US dollars for euros, then it would cost $5,000 for that license. Not necessarily just you being approved, but just $5,000 just for the application itself. Is a license required for each location? No, you need to have a bond of about $2,500. It's more reasonable. Also, the letter of credit or deposit. Applicant's commitment to increase security? No. You got to be solvent in order to not necessarily have $500,000 in net worth, but you have to be solvent as an organization to be able to conduct business. And unaudited in terms of financial statements, unaudited with certification, applicants, individuals, and then you got to have a background investigation. So for the most part, $5,000 if you're just exchanging currency, say US dollars for euro, US dollars for pesos or for naira or for lira, whatever the sovereign currency you're looking to exchange that's considered money according to legal tender law in those particular countries. You're going to need that $5,000 just to exchange that currency. But if you are transmitting money from one state, state to state, or from state to another country, or even within state, you're going to need that $10,000 for the application, $2 million and some change, $500,000 net worth. So all of this is based upon the assumption that you are what's considered a money service business, and that's important to note, a money service business. So let's look to see what Texas has, because we're operating in Florida and in Texas. In Florida, there are regulations. Here, where we're launching our first ATMs here in the state of Texas, we'll go over those regulations in Florida. But first, I definitely want to talk about here at the federal level and at the state level here in the state of Texas. So let's go. Now, when you think about money, money has, and for me, just being candid, my parents never really had that conversation with me about money. What really is money? And I would assume most parents probably didn't have that conversation either, in terms of like, what's the law behind it, how did it come into being, what laws regulate money here in the United States. So those are one of the things that we take as an assumptions, and we just move with it. But I learned more over these past year and a half about money, more so than any point in time in my history and education around money. So this is important for me, and I think you all should know too. But then there's this thing that governs money that's called legal tender law. So when you think about what is legal tender, we can go now. Right now, I'll just go into like some more credible sources in terms of like the lay reading on legal tender law. So as it relates to legal tender law, and I'll just read the article here. Over the years, there's been some discussion about legal tender law in the United States. This person talked with a legal expert, and then as it relates to the legal tender law, there is section 5103 of Title 31 of the United States Code, which basically says United States coin and currency. That's including Federal Reserve notes and circulating notes of Federal Reserve banks and national banks are legal tender for all debts, public charges, taxes, and dues. Foreign gold or silver coins are not legal tender for debts. So, as it relates to legal tender law, this is the U.S. Section 5103, and perhaps I should just post this in the Discord channel as well, but this is the actual document itself as it relates, and this is An authenticated U.S. government, this is authenticated U.S. government information from GPO. So let's go to that section 5103 as it relates to legal tender. And it just reiterates what we saw in that article earlier. It says United States coins and currency, including Federal Reserve notes and circulating notes of Federal Reserve banks and national banks, are legal tender for all debts, public charges, taxes, and dues. Foreign gold or silver coins are not legal tender for debt. So it designates the notes coming from the Federal Reserve as legal tender. Now, when you begin to think about legal tender law and the currency that's distributed by the Federal Reserve, you think about the dollar. Now, there are certain laws that are on the books as it relates to using silver and gold, prohibiting the use of silver and gold as some. At one point in time, it was illegal here in the United States to use silver and gold for currency, and as a result, they banned the use of it. In particular, there were some, at some point in time, it was in the, as early, as late as 1960s, our money or our coins were minted. When you talk about our quarters, nickels, dimes, and pennies, they were minted in silver and copper. And that relates to another note when we begin to talk about good money and bad money. But as it relates to legal tender law, there's a law that governs what is determined as money. I'll come back to the note around what good money and bad money is a little later, and what are some of the laws, the natural laws governing what's good money and bad money as related to Grisham's law and Thayer's law. But I'll talk about that a little later. But I want to actually make the point that here's the legal tender law governing the sovereign currency of the United States issued by the Federal Reserve. That is what is considered as money, and that is what is considered as legal tender. But then when we go to the Texas Department, and I'm building up to the argument of, hey, we need to be registered and get a license for, let's go back to the facts. I think I just, $10,000 for the application, up to $2 million for the surety bond, even though there were rumors going around in the community that we needed $3.5 million just to get a license. But here we go. Let's go to Texas, the great country of Texas, or state of Texas. And this is information that's giving guidance in regards to cryptocurrencies, and this is from the Texas Department of Banking. And once again, you can go to this is coming from a government website, and if you'd like to have that information, you can pass it along. So this is a supervisory memorandum that was put out in 2014 related to all virtual currency companies operating or desiring to operate in Texas. This is regulatory treatment of virtual currencies under the Texas Money Service Act. I can read through all of this, but I will touch on some of the main points. So in essence, this memorandum seeks only to establish the regulatory treatment of virtual currencies under existing statutory definitions. I can scroll through, but I'm going to get to the crux of the issue because I know we're already 10:30 in. It's already 10:30 and we're already 30 minutes in. Looking at it here, this is the analysis of currency exchange. Exchanging virtual currency for sovereign currency is not currency exchange under the Texas Financial Code. So when we go back to this basic definition here of currency exchange, we don't even meet the basic definition of actually having to get a license as a money service business for currency exchange. Why? Because it's the case that the Texas Department of Banking has says exchanging virtual currency for sovereign currency is not currency exchange under the Texas Financial Code. And looking at the Financial Code, it basically says it defines currency for purposes of currency exchange as the coin and paper money of the United States or any country that is designated as legal tender and circulates. Once again, going back to this definition coming from the U.S. Code 5103, legal tender. That is, the government has designated the Federal Reserve as having the right to be able to issue notes. And these are Federal Reserve notes. that are designated as legal tender and falls under legal tender law. Once again, we don't necessarily fall under that category. And I'll continue to read here. Because neither central virtualized currencies, and they make the distinction between centralized virtual currencies like Ripple, where there's a company that actually manages a cryptocurrency, or a decentralized currency such as LightPay coin or Logis coin. But then they make the case on a centralized virtual currencies. They don't make a distinction. Because neither centralized virtual currency nor currencies are coin and paper money issued by the government, they cannot be considered currencies under the statute. And I think that's important to note. Cannot be considered currencies under the statute. Money transmission. Let's go back here. Because factors distinguishing the various centralized virtual currencies are usually complicated and nuanced to make money transmission licensing determination under the department must, I'll go back and read that again. Because factors distinguishing the various centralized virtual currencies are usually complicated and nuanced, to make money transmission licensing determinations, the department must individually analyze centralized virtual currency schemes. We're not a centralized currency, so this document doesn't necessarily offer generalized guidance on the treatment of centralized virtual currency. So this doesn't apply to us. But let's go here as it relates to decentralized virtual currencies, such as LightPay coin and Logis coin. On the other hand, money transmission licensing determinations regarding transactions with cryptocurrencies turn on the single question of whether cryptocurrency should be considered money or monetary value under the Money Services Act, and that's an act within the state of Texas. Under Financial Code 151.301, money transmission is the receipt of money or monetary value by any means for the promise to make the money or monetary value available at a later time or different locations. So, although there's a great amount of discussion of whether cryptocurrency should be considered money for the purpose of money transmission regulation in Texas, the term is defined by statute. So, and with that said, the Financial Code provides that money or monetary value means currency or a claim that can be converted into currency through a financial institution, electronic payment network, or other informal or informal payment network. As already stated in the document above, cryptocurrency is not a currency as that word is defined by the Monetary Services Act. Therefore, based upon that alone, going back to this license, we're not considered a money service business. But if you'd like to have more evidence, let's read on just a tad bit more. As a statement of policy, and we can walk through some of the points. I won't go through all of them, but I'll list some of the main ones. In order for us to have an ATM machine in the area and conduct business, one individual, or there was word coming through the or rumors being spread around the community that we had needed to have a $2.5 million license to be able to exchange currency. But actually here I'm reading what comes from the state government here. The exchange of cryptocurrency for sovereign currency between two parties is not money transmission. Once again, the exchange of cryptocurrency for sovereign currency between two parties is not money transmission. This is essentially a sale of goods between two parties. The seller gives units of cryptocurrency to the buyer, who pays the seller directly with sovereign currency. The seller does not receive the sovereign currency in exchange for a promise to make it available. The exchange of one cryptocurrency for another cryptocurrency is not money transmission, regardless of how many parties are involved. There is no receipt of money, and therefore no money transmission occurs. Transfer of cryptocurrency by itself is not money transmission. Because cryptocurrency is not money or monetary value, the receipt of it in exchange for a promise to make it available at a later time or a different location is not money transmission. This includes intermediaries who receive cryptocurrency for transfer to a third party, and entities who, akin to depositories, hold cryptocurrency on behalf of customers. Now, exchange of crypto, and this is, I think, what relates to us with ATM machines being able to put in your fiat currency and then subsequently receive cryptocurrency, or putting in your cryptocurrency and subsequently receiving fiat currency. Exchange of cryptocurrency for sovereign currency through an automated machine is usually, but not always, money transmission. So let's go through the example here as it gets specific. For example, several companies have begun selling automated machines commonly called Bitcoin ATMs that facilitate contemporaneous exchanges of Bitcoin for sovereign currency. Most such machines currently available when operating in their default mode act as an intermediary between the buyer and seller, typically connecting through one of established exchange sites. When a customer buys or sells Bitcoin through a machine configured this way, the operator of the machine receives the buyer's sovereign currency in exchange for a promise to make it available to the seller. However, it is worth noting that at least some Bitcoin ATMs can be configured to conduct transactions only between the customer and the machine's operator, with no third parties involved. If the machine never involves a third party and only facilitates a sale or purchase of Bitcoin by the machine's operator directly with the customer, there is no money transmission, because at no time is money received in exchange for a promise to make it available at a later time or different locations. So, on the rumor that was going around in the community that we needed $3.5 million in order to get a license to conduct business or be able to sell our ATMs and have those ATMs operate, it's the case. First, there's no $3.5 million here that's required for a license. Second, cryptocurrencies are not classified as money. Third, in order for the application to be considered as a money service business, cryptocurrencies would have to be considered money. And the Texas Department of Banking has clarified the notion about whether or not cryptocurrencies or ATM being able to buy and sell cryptocurrencies at ATM is it considered money transmission. If there are owners of ATMs, which we have always advocated from the beginning, that individual owners or merchants will be able to have ATMs and be able to buy and sell cryptocurrency from individual patrons coming into their store. That's always been our plan. It has never been the case that we've said something along the lines that we will own all ATMs and we will be that third party between the merchant who owns the ATM and the individual consumer coming to buy cryptocurrencies. So it is a fact that the rumor that came out that was being spread around that caused 50 nodes to drop, or 50 people end up, or 50 master nodes just immediately sold from the network, was totally false. Issues around LPC, LGS being a scam is totally false. The issues of us needing a money service business license that will cost $3.5 million in order to operate our business is false. You have the evidence here. If you have any questions for me, I can provide all of this to you. Once again, you can go to the website here. This is Texas government website about money service business. You can go to the U.S. legal code here, an actual U.S. government document in terms of what it defines as money. At the same time, you can go to the Texas Department of Banking as it relates to being able to operate ATM machines here in the States. So I was particularly concerned when I heard the rumor. It's the case I had to go to the source where the information came from, but yet it's the case that information is already out, that this is a scam, but yet it's the case I am presenting to you today all of the evidence crystal clear in terms of our legal standing as it relates to being able to do business and buying and being able to sell cryptocurrency to the consumer through an ATM machine, being able to sell those ATM machines to merchants, and the merchants being able to buy and sell or trade cryptocurrencies with their consumers in their stores. So I'm just going to take a quick pause. And once again, this is and the reason I'm particularly concerned was that the information spread, not necessarily where it came from, but the authentication of the information that was in it and the subsequent impact in the community, where some people bought it hook, line, and sinker and dumped 50 nodes in less than 4 hours. Totally unacceptable. And I think, considering that we have over 2,700 master nodes in the network, we were not necessarily impacted. A smaller project, it would have killed a smaller project. But yet we're robust, we're strong, we're a team, we're cohesive, and it's at the point where it did a little bit of damage, hurt the price a little bit, but it's the case. I think we'll get along better at the long term, because this is a point, this is a lesson. If anyone has a question about the community, our legal standing, what we're doing in the community, contact me first. Let me be your first source of information. And I think I've always made that my policy. If there's an issue that you have about whether or not this is a scam, whether or not cryptocurrency, or whether or not LPC is a security or not, read our white paper. Come to me, send me a text, send me information send me a DM on Discord. It doesn't make sense that people would go ahead and just drop 50 nodes on a rumor, considering that there's fact in front of you, or the ability to acquire the facts easily if you came to me and asked a question. So even though I may seem a little heated and tested in this particular webinar, I'm excited that we have made our first purchase from our manufacturer to be able to deliver the ATM machines in December, to be able to do our reveal here in Dallas in our first week of December, and be in a position where we can start selling our ATMs not only here in the state of Texas, but around the United States and the world. So that's the impact that we're looking to make. And I, once again, just want to be in a position to answer any questions that relates to our legal standing. We are incorporated in the state of Florida. We are licensed to do business here in the state of Texas, and I think that information has been posted in the Discord channel as well. We have legal standing to be able to operate within the state of Texas without a business license. Not a business license, but without a money service business license as it's operated, as it's outlined here, general application for requirement for money service business. Why do we not need a money service business license? Because of the technical definition and the legal definition of money as dictated here by the federal government and from the Texas Department of Banking and its Money Service Act. So let me take a pause and try to answer some questions. How can SEC regulators affect LPC and LGS? How do you see the future regulations? Okay, and this is coming from Umberto Del Grosso. All right, I'm going to come out and answer that question for you. And for the most part, as background, we have made some outreach to individuals from the SEC to get some guidance, although that information wasn't necessarily all the information that we needed. We did establish contact to build some type of relationship. I don't know at this point how the SEC is going to, what decisions that they are going to make. I don't have a crystal ball, but I can tell you so far, there needs to be more regulatory clarity around cryptocurrencies, because actually there are proposals in Congress to get more clarity from three organizations: CFTC, the IRS, and the SEC. And I'll describe how each one of those organizations considers cryptocurrencies. So first, well, let's talk about the SEC since you brought them up. The SEC at this point they've considered cryptocurrencies as not necessarily being securities. That's their position at this time. They don't see them as securities at this point. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they have to come back, that they can't come back and then deem it as a security at a later point in time. They have made some decisions as it relates clearly to Bitcoin, which is similar to how we're organized, where there's a decentralized cryptocurrency that exists. There's a legal entity that helps to guide and manage the research, development, and commercialization of Bitcoin in Blockstream. And they've considered Bitcoin as not being a security. At the same time, same thing with Ethereum as well. Issues around Ripple, they haven't made any determinations that a centralized cryptocurrency is not a security. But at this point, they haven't designated cryptocurrencies as, in general, as securities. And we also have our letter in terms of from our lawyer stating our legal opinion around whether or not we are considered a security, and the position is we are not a security. So that's just based upon the SEC. Secondly, the other governing body is the CFTC, and I won't necessarily dive into detail, but for the most part, what they consider cryptocurrencies as is a commodity. Cryptocurrencies as a commodity, not necessarily as a security or not a security, but as a commodity. So when you think about gold, when you think about silver, those are commodities. So cryptocurrencies are considered just like commodities. From the perspective of the Internal Revenue Service, they don't necessarily consider it as money, they don't necessarily consider it as a security or not a security, but they say it's an asset. And commodities can be assets, so it falls under general category when you say CFT. And those two are consistent when you think about the CFTC's definition as a commodity, and commodities can be assets. IRS considers commodities as assets. So for the purpose of taxation, the IRS considers cryptocurrencies as assets, and it's only once you change out into fiat that it triggers a taxable event. So if you stay in you trade, those are taxable events. But yet it's the case, the money that you make on that trade, it's only once you trade out into fiat. So if you trade in crypto to crypto, BTC or the LPC, BTC, going back and forth, trading back, if you're a day trader or you're a swing trader, and that's how you make your living, but yet you're changing those funds out into fiat, that's when it becomes something that you must document and say, hey, these are all of the cryptocurrency transactions that I've made. Now I've transferred that money out of crypto into fiat. That's when it becomes taxable and reportable, that you have to report those gains and those losses, and it's considered in similar if it's before 12 months. 12 months, up to 12 months is considered just regular employment income. If it's over 12 months, it can consider either capital gains or capital loss. So right now, those are the three regulatory bodies, the IRS, the CFTC, and the Securities and Exchange Commission. They've given three, not necessarily inconsistent when you look at CFTC and the IRS, but the Securities and Exchange Commission, they've given a definition of saying, hey, it's not necessarily a security. CFTC says it's a commodity. IRS basically says that it's an asset. So there needs to be a little bit more regulatory clarity for large institutions coming in. I don't know what the SEC is going to do, but right now they're considering not as SEC because not as securities. So will there be any necessary update to LPC wallet like with LGS? Within the coming weeks, that's coming from King Cyrus, that we will make announcements or when that takes the week of when it was ready to take place. But we'll keep you guys up to date when it happens. Can you change to Hong Kong dollars? So that's a question that's coming from Eric. So far, the relationship that we have with the manufacturer, they can change to any currency of any sovereign currency of a nation. So we do have that capability to go worldwide and deploy within different countries, A, to the degree that those countries will allow ATM machines within their area, and B, the legality of the ATMs operating within that particular region. So the ATMs will have to be able to operate within that particular country. At the same time, there shouldn't necessarily be a ban on cryptocurrency. So if there's a ban on crypto, obviously you can't operate an ATM. But at the same time, there could be no ban on crypto, but yet a ban on ATMs. So we have to consider the individual circumstances. And the partner that we have a great manufacturing partner with a solid staff. They've done the research in each one of the particular geographies, and they have guidance on what should and shouldn't be done and whether or not you can or cannot deploy within a particular country. So to answer your question about Hong Kong, the answer is yes, if the country, the Hong Kong allows cryptocurrencies to be used, and they allow for ATMs in that particular country. So the answer is it depends. Okay, I'm from the Netherlands. When do you think LPC, LGS is deploy here ATMs around Europe? We see more crypto ATMs in big cities. And that question is coming from Martin. We'll begin taking pre-orders in the next couple of weeks. The only thing that's preventing us from taking orders now is our website and being able to take the cryptocurrency or the fiat, if depending on how you want to pay. But our preference is in cryptocurrency. Whether or not we accept in LPC, LGS, we're leaning more towards that at this point. But our decision now is definitely being able to take BTC for those orders. So it typically takes about 30 days to get the ATM out to your area. So once you're ready to take once we're ready to take pre-orders, we can take it from there. So that's the only thing preventing us now from actually being able to take the pre-orders, the website. So that's real soon. Ahmed, I mean, can I sell my bitcoins to get fiat without need of legal issues globally? Based upon based upon the information that we have here, um, here in the state of Texas, that's not necessarily the case. You won't have any issues putting in your fiat and getting Bitcoin, or putting your fiat, getting Bitcoin, or putting your Bitcoin in and then taking out fiat. So there's no issues here. So we'd have to look at your particular country as it relates. But if they have ATMs in your particular region, you can be safe. It can be safe to say that there won't be a problem. But we'll look at it on a case by case basis. Eric, yes, no legal blowback. Hong Kong is still on the fence. They want to work, but keep China off their backs. Yeah, it's a lot of places like that. Even here in the United States, at the federal level, these institutions, they want clarity about it. So that's why they're prompting individuals in Congress. They're now prompting these regulatory bodies to come up with something crystal clear, because talent is leaving the country, whether or not you guys know it or not, because of the irregularity, the regulatory certainty or uncertainty. People like certainty. That's why you see the markets, sometimes they go up, to sometimes they go down. But if you had certainty in a particular country, say for instance in Singapore or in Estonia or in the Philippines, it's crystal clear, or in Japan, these countries, they have clarity, and as a result, they're beginning to thrive. Those countries that are kind of dragging their tail on it, they're losing out on the opportunity. So I think it needs to be crystal clear. But yes, I think we're in a good position at this point. But the main purpose of this talk, and I hate that this is dragging on for an entire hour, but I did want to address the issue of that rumor going around that this is a scam. This is a scam because we need a $3.5 million money service business license in order to operate ATMs. I think that's really what pushed those nearly 50 masternodes to check out. Like I said, if this were a smaller project, it would have hurt us really bad. But it took us down to maybe a percentage point or two. We're still over 2,700 masternodes, but it's the case. It was just bad to see it happen so fast. It was in a matter of minutes that it happened. Once I found out, and individuals were coming to me asking, "Well, can you tell me about this rumor that this is all fake and you need 3.5 million and all this other stuff?" You know, there's other things around it, but this is the crux of the issue that I really wanted to address. But we are moving forward. How long does it take to deploy or apply for such machines in the U.S.? How long does it take to deploy? Right now, from the way that our process is right now, because our manufacturer is located outside of the United States, we need at least that 30 days to be able to deploy. From the time that you order to the time that you receive is approximately 30 days, maybe a week or more, up or down, a week up or a week down in either direction. But for the most part, you're considering things like shipping. Where is it going to from its manufactured location? At the same time, are there any customizations that we may make internally to configure your node, where you configure your ATM, where your ATM machine has funds that are constantly being sent to it from your masternode. There's no third party. Your masternode is constantly sending funds to that ATM machines to make cryptocurrency available. Or there's a service that we have for you where you're able to send your cryptocurrency to your payments of your masternodes to a location where we do a swap from LPC, LGS to the other currencies we may have on the machine, like Bitcoin. We might have Ethereum, and then have those sent to balance out the currency balances on the ATM machines. But if you have your master nodes sending funds, there's some configuration that we may need to do, so that may push it up or down a week or so, but roughly a little over 30 days. People do not jump to conclusion until each Wednesday, and please ask more questions. I agree 100%, Eric, and I thank you for making that so much. Man, right now, guys, I'm really pushing because we know what the competition is. The competition is at the end of the day. I see the credit card companies, I see some of the banks in the way in which they charge fees for point of sale. At the same time, us having an option for legal tender currency. Once again, there is nothing in the law. Let me make this clear. There is nothing in the law that tells a U.S. citizen or a person in the United States that you cannot conduct business in Bitcoin. There is nothing in the law that tells one business or one merchant that they cannot conduct business with another merchant in cryptocurrency or shells or even salt or even sugar or pepper or cucumbers or onions. You can trade in what, and you can exchange, you can use any medium of exchange that you want. But according to legal tender law, what's recognized as sovereign currency is the dollar. So we want to give that alternative. And in addition to giving the alternative of cryptocurrency, LPC and LGS, we are giving to the people. We are giving to the merchants. We are giving to individuals the ability not only to own the cryptocurrency, but to own the network through which the transactions are made. Think about that. We don't own Visa's payment network. We don't own MasterCard's payment network. We don't own Amex's payment network for point of sale. We don't own that network. We don't own the ATM machines for the banks. We don't own that payment network that the banks uses, and it goes through like 11 or 12 different intermediaries at the point of sale device, maybe 4 to 5 at the banking network. But yet we don't own those networks. This is a network that you own. This is a network or a currency that you own. This is a network that you own. This is the option. There is nothing illegal about the activity. This is an option for you to be able to engage in commerce using a medium of exchange that is not illegal, but legal,